Employment rate for that age group is 15%. I think we've got a real crisis.
You always know you'd end up in HR.
Today, I'm speaking to Ruth Busby, People Director at GTR and formerly a senior leader at Great Western Railway. We get into what HR actually looks for,
The biggest mistake people do is
how to stand out,
it's really hard at the moment because so many.
and why some people progress faster than others.
And outside of work, Ruth reads more books than most of us manage in a whole year.
Genuinely.
I forgot to ask you how you got into HR, if that makes sense. Because obviously, when you joined with Great Western...
I joined as HR director.
Exactly. So how did you tell us that story? Like
I remember having a conversation at university where I spoke to the careers advisors and they said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to do something where I can like help people, where I'm making a difference, where I'm changing things and like, this sounds a bit like, but making the world a better place, all that sort of stuff. And they said, I think you should go into social work. I said, I don't mean helping people like individually like that. I mean like a bit different to that. That wasn't quite what I had in mind. And and then someone I know, who I knew at uni, had gone to the civil service and had gone through the civil service fast stream, and they told me about it, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds great, because you're making policy, you're like helping to shape what government's doing, all that sort of stuff. So I joined the civil service, joined the Home Office on their fast stream. Never thought I'd get through all the tests. I remember coming out of the maths test and going, nah, I haven't got through, and then got through, and then got through like the assessment centres and everything, and joined the Home Office. And worked on family policy, youth offending. I did some stuff on parenting orders, did loads of stuff on criminal justice, and then a little bit on race equality and incitement to religious hatred. So I was doing all this policy stuff. It was really interesting, sat in Parliament passing notes to people, all of that sort of stuff. Randomly had meetings with Salman Rushdie and Rowan Atkinson and all of that sort of stuff. And it was really good, really enjoyed it, like really interesting. And then at the time in the civil service, they said, if you want to be like one of the people running the civil service, you can't just be good at policy. You need to know how to run a business. So you either need to do a period of time in operations, like running a prison or running immigration or running a job centre, or you need to do corporate services, so finance, HR, IT. And I nearly went to be a prison governor, but thought about it and then decided that probably wasn't for me. So I went and moved into a job in HR. And I thought I was just going to go and do it for like a year, 2 years, get a little bit of experience, say, yeah, I've ticked that box, and then I'll like go back into policy stuff. And that was in 2005. And 21 years later, I was still in HR. But I think what it did for me was it gave me the opportunity to do something different. I did my MSc in HR while I was at the Home Office, which was brilliant. Worked in different bits of HR while I was there and moved around and everything. But it helped me to be able to move out of the civil service because it gave me the confidence that I had a skill set that would work in like other businesses. So after I had my first child, after I had my daughter, and came back from maternity leave, I moved over to the University of Reading, doing HR there, and then since then went to the Atomic Weapons Establishment, and then into the railway 8 years ago on Sunday as HR director. So it wasn't something I thought I would do. But yeah, I've been doing it for quite a long time.
Oh, bless you. And for those that don't know, roughly summarise, you don't have to go to great depth, the difference between HR and people. In terms of the I guess the role. So you have different titles. So when I joined Great Western, I was HR director. My title now is people director. It's the same thing. It's just a different title. I think I prefer people director because some people are a bit naughty with what HR stands for, and I'm not going to repeat it because I don't like it. But when you say human resources, it can sound a little bit like robotic, sort of.
Robotic, exactly. Well, we've got resources that happen to be people, so we're going to move them around in this way and all that sort of stuff. Whereas people director, I think, sounds a bit more like what it's about, which is helping to recognise that the only reason our businesses work is because people work for us. So how do we create environments that help our people to be able to do the best, basically?
I see.
But I did have a chat with a driver when I was out and about early in this job. Someone introduced me to this driver and said, oh, Ruth's the people director. And he said, what do you do then? Do you just direct people up and down platforms? I said, well, maybe sometimes. And then another person said to me, oh, you're a people director. Do you like people? I said, yeah, most of the time I do, yeah.
That's a good question, though.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Is it a prerequisite to like people to be a people director? So, yeah, so basically it's the same thing. And sometimes you'll hear people described as chief people officers, which is the current, thing that people like to be called, but call me whatever you like, really.
Oh, bless. All right, so next question. Was there a particular moment or experience that made you realise you wanted to be in people and culture in your career? Or
so like I said, I sort of fell into it, and I thought I quite like. I mean, there were a few things that I remember being. At one point, I was leading industrial relations and employee relations in the Home Office, and there were some strikes. And I remember we had a phone call from the reception at the Home Office to say, oh, there's been a bit of an issue on the picket line. Someone's been hit, and I was like, what? Someone's been hit on the picket line? And I said, oh, have you phoned the police? And they said no. I said, well, you need to phone the police there. And I said, I'm coming down. So I went down and then chatted with the security guy, and he said, oh no, you haven't been hit. It's just someone was jostling in front of them and all that sort of stuff. So I just went out and just said, mate, can we have a chat? And I literally said, mate, can we have a chat? You've got absolute right to be here, but can you just not intimidate people when they're coming into work, please? And he was fine, he was good as gold. And I went back upstairs and everyone was like, I can't believe you did that, are you okay? Did you feel safe? And I'm like, what were they going to do? It's just
exactly. People
so and that's the thing. So for me, it's that thing of we work with unions a lot, you work with loads of different people, everyone's human. So for me it's an opportunity to recognise that and say, look, we all want the place that we work in to be a good place to work. So it's about how do you find your way through that puzzle so that you create that.
Makes sense.
And you don't need to stand on show or whatever, or be scared about certain things. You just engage with people and have a conversation.
And I think people respect that as well. Hence why he reacted the way he did.
I'm just well, let's sort it out then. Let's see if we can sort it out. Mate, come here, we'll sort this out.
But I will say that's one of your good qualities. I feel like when we first met, I know you said I approached you, but because I thought you was in leadership. I had no clue.
Oh, did you not?
No. I saw your lanyard, but I didn't know where you worked in the business. So when you told me you was who you was, I was just a little surprised, because I was thinking, wow, you're actually very approachable, and I think that's one of your best qualities.
And I don't normally tell people, if I'm out and about, I won't say, oh, hello. I'll say, hello, I'm Ruth. I won't say, oh, hello, I'm the people director. Because I'm a bit like, why would I say that? And I'm not doing it to catch people out. I'm genuinely doing it because I'm Ruth. I'm just interested to meet you and understand what you do.
No, but I think that's a good thing, because I think when I met you, I didn't think you was in leadership. I just thought you was just a random person working.
I also wear trainers to work quite a lot as well. I don't always dress as smart as everyone else.
You've got that relatability, and I guess it's easier to open up when somebody's like that. So I think there's a thing that happens as well where, particularly in big organisations, you don't see directors very often, and it's easy to think of them as being different and remote and all of that sort of stuff. And actually, most people are just people. Yeah, this is it.
So
but I think that's your best quality, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so if you could go back to your younger self at the start of your career, what's that one piece of advice you'd give to yourself?
I think it would probably be to have a bit more confidence in my ability and to worry less about pleasing other people. I think I've only recently got to the point in time where I'm like, okay, they might not be happy, but that's okay. As long as I'm not being mean, I don't need to keep everyone happy, and I can't keep everyone happy. And not everyone's going to like me, because not everyone likes everyone.
Yeah.
But I think when I was earlier in my career, it was like, I've got to make sure people are happy. I want to make sure I'm doing everything perfect. And I think I put a lot of pressure on myself because of perfectionism that I probably didn't need to. So I think it's that. And I remember when I mentioned the civil service like selection stuff, one of the bits of feedback I had, they said, and it was written feedback, they said she's obviously very intellectual because she's got I did a postgraduate degree as well as my degree, but she lacks intellectual confidence. And I think it's because I was in an environment where...
cheeky.
Yeah, I know. But most of the people who were doing like the assessment centre with me had gone to Oxford and Cambridge.
Okay.
So they were really like confident, and I was confident, but I'd be a bit like, oh, but they're really clever. And so there's a little bit of a, well, everyone's clever in different ways, and actually I am quite clever.
So it's having that confidence. It makes you more... Maybe that's one of the things that made you more relatable. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, also, there's a bit as well. Like, it's like you can have a really great vocabulary. You don't have to use that great vocabulary all the time with everyone. And actually, I think it's more clever to say things in a way that's plain English and straightforward. And like in the civil service, we had this 5 days training on communications and writing, and they showed us one section of the Sun newspaper, not Page 3, not that they have it anymore. They did have it at the time, but and it was literally one column, and they said you need to learn to be able to write like that, so you can say your message really simply, really concisely, in a way that everyone can understand. But I think it's easy when you know to try and use bigger language and all that sort of stuff, but it doesn't necessarily make it relatable.
All right. Oh yeah, this is not on here, but how have you dealt with? You don't have to answer.
No, that's fine.
How have you dealt with like being in a leadership position, and for whatever reason, I can't imagine anybody feeling like this, but not liking you. I think that must be difficult.
I'm sure there are people who don't like me, and there's definitely people who don't like the decisions I've made.
Okay. But how do you deal with that, like on a personal level? Do you get what I mean?
Oh, I find it quite hard because I am inherently a people pleaser, and I'm like, oh no, I had quite a difficult conversation with someone today, and someone said to me, "Eat the frog, eat the frog." I'm like, I'm going to eat the frog. They said to me afterwards, "How was it?" I was like, "I've eaten the frog. I didn't like it, but I think it was worse for me than it was for them." No, there's always people that aren't going to like you, and I think you just have to get to the point of going, I can't do anything about that. I can't control that. As long as I'm comfortable that I've acted in a way that shows respect and decency to other people, if they don't like me, then I can't change that. And sometimes it won't be, sometimes it will be personal. Sometimes it will just be because of what you stand for as a leader or whatever. You know, not everyone likes some of the things that I say. And that's everyone, everyone's got a right to do that. There's people I don't like what they say, but that's on me to think about why that is. But I think you just have to get to the point where you're like, okay, you can't please everyone.
Yeah.
And if you try to please everyone, you end up in knots, so... Yeah,
that's true. All right, so for people who might not know, like, I think you've answered this. Actually, no, you haven't.
No, I haven't.
For people who might not know what a people director does on a day-to-day... Like, what does that look like a day-to-day?
So I don't stand on platforms directing people which direction they should go. Sometimes I help, but people director is basically everything in an organisation that relates to the employees, basically, so the staff. So within my team, I've got recruitment and all the job adverts and all of that sort of stuff, as well as the team that looks after people as they come through their interviews and get offers and all of those sorts of things. I've got the team that work with managers to support them when there's disciplinaries, grievances, the team that work with the trades unions to do all the negotiations and consultation on changes on policies, all the policies that you've got relating to people, so where there's staff handbooks and all of those sorts of things. Internal comms often sits with people as well, so all the messaging that goes out through internally within the company. Training and development. And it varies in different organisations. So with GTR, the training and development team, I've got do the management, induction, training, leadership development, coaching, all of that sort of stuff. The team in Great Western that I had also did all the customer service training. So that was sitting there in Great Western occupational health. So all of the medical checks were done within the people team. I'm trying to think what I've missed, and I've almost certainly missed something
That's all right.
important. And like the business partners, so the people who work with senior leaders to say, well, what is the strategy for how we support people in our organisation? Like, what do we do about pay, pensions, reward, benefits, all of that sort of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Retirement.
And is that normally remotely? Like, are you based in the office usually? Or?
Yeah, so usually based in the office. So at GTR, our offices are in Monument and in East Croydon. So the teams sort of are based between the two. Yeah.
And what does the hours look like? Do you have a specific set of hours?
Not really. So I think my contract is all hours required to do the job. So it's.
Are you on call? Like, is it on call?
No, in Great Western, the exec used to do on call for like incidents and stuff like that. It's kind of the sort of job where you're sort of always on, but not, if that makes sense. I'm quite I'm someone who likes structure. So for me,
I think we all do. To be fair.
Well, some people don't mind, but I think we all do. And then there's people who don't. So for me, it's really important to be clear what's work time and what's family time. But there are always occasions where something might come up where they're like, actually, we need to speak to Ruth. But I'm also I think it's really important to trust your team, and there'll be lots of things that the team can do that don't need to come to me, but equally they need to know I'm here if they need me. So it's the hours. I mean, in a way I'm quite lucky because it's based on what's in my diary, and I don't have to be in the office to do it. I can work from home, I can work on the trains because I've got access to all my devices and that sort of thing. But generally I work in the week during daytime.
Genuinely. All right, what's something about HR and people that would genuinely surprise the average person?
So I think I think what would probably surprise people is that there's so many different aspects of HR, because I think people assume that you start in HR, like managing contracts, issuing contracts, dealing with queries and all that sort of stuff, and then you gradually work your way up and you do some of the disciplinaries along the way and all of that sort of stuff, and then you become senior. I didn't do any of that. I didn't come in doing any of that stuff. I moved over as a business partner, so I was providing advice and stuff to senior leaders, and then moved into pay and industrial relations and through coaching and training and development and stuff like that. So I think it probably surprises people that there's so many different routes that you can take to get into HR. And actually a lot of the time, there's quite a lot of frontline staff who have either done like a HR degree or want to get into HR. And often in their mind it's, I do casework and all of that sort of thing. So maybe I think what would surprise people is that there's so many different routes in, because recruitment is so different, learning and development is so different, reward is really different. And I guess the other thing that people might be surprised is that actually to be really good in HR, you need to actually be really good at data, because a lot of the way in which we make good decisions is by looking at the data we've got about what's happening, and being able to talk to that, present that, make business cases, but then also bring the story and the heart into it. So that ability to use data is really, really important in the HR space. But lots of people, there's lots of people in HR as well that don't like people. I happen to like people.
Okay, good.
But
I guess that helps.
There's lots of people who will say, I want to be in HR because I like people. And actually sometimes it's quite hard being in HR if you like people, because some of the cases you're dealing with are not very nice. They're, like society, some of the people who work in our organisations don't do very nice things. And you're then having to deal with it. So it is nice to work in HR if you like people, and I do like people, but it's not always a nice environment in that sense.
Makes sense. What's the biggest misconception about HR, would you say?
I think the biggest misconception is that we're part of the organisation that is here to do everyone's dirty work.
Okay.
And we're like, and you get this sometimes, not where I am now, but in general, you do get a bit of a, well, no, we don't need to worry about, we'll just tell HR what we're doing. And either HR is the person who's telling you can't do something, or you're going to come in and just tidy everything up for us once we've done it, rather than seeing the people team as actually the conscience of the organisation, who is there to help make sure that the organisation's a really great and healthy place to work, and that we lead change properly. So quite often people see HR as being less important. And that's why there's always debates in HR circles about whether the HR director or the chief people officer should be on the executive team of organisations or not, because in lots of organisations it's not, which I think is wrong, because then how are you making decisions about your organisation that take into account people? But because it's sometimes viewed as being like, well, you know, you're here as a support function rather than part of driving the business. But my view is you can't drive a business without taking the people with them. Exactly.
No, I agree. All right, so next section. So when you're hiring, what makes a standout candidate, would you say? Like within like the first 60 seconds, for example, looking at, I don't know if you still, at your level, if you still look at CVs.
Every now and then, not often. I think it's really hard at the moment because so many people apply for jobs. So many people are using AI to do their CVs and stuff. And actually, there's quite a lot of companies now that are using AI filters, so you can pick up whether applications have been done through
like uni
AI.
As well. They're doing that as well,
So I think it's really hard. And I was talking to my sister the other day, and she's looking for part-time work at the moment because she's a student. She said she's applied for 100 jobs and has only had 3 interviews, and that's not uncommon. That is like
it's on the news as well. It's very common.
That's fairly, sadly, and it must be really soul destroying as well, because you sort of start to think, what's wrong with me? And sometimes often, most of the time, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just so many people who've put their things in.
Can I just say as well, bearing in mind she's your sister and you're like a HR director, she can't get a job. We've got no hope. Because you're giving her all the tips.
I know. Well, Well, but I mean, it's hard, right? There's lots of, there's lots of. It's difficult out there. But I think probably the biggest mistake people do is send the same CV to lots of different places without tailoring it. And I can see why people do that, because if you've applied for 100 jobs and only got 3 interviews, taking the time to tweak it every single time is tiring. But actually something like, I prefer CVs that are nice and short, that has got something up front which says, this is who I am, these are my key skills or whatever, and then really clear and punchy about, right, I've done this. And in the experience section, having things that say, not just what you did, but what the result was. I think lots of people will describe what they do without really quantifying it and saying, because I did this, it led to this. So that makes a difference. I saw a really good CV last week that had a photo on it. It was really good. Normally,
is that a good thing though?
Well, so historically, I see photos on CVs and I'm like, oh. But this one was really well done. It was really slick. It was really nice, and it had the here's the key things about me. It was really, really good. But normally I'd be like, oh, photo. But this was good.
But how do you know if you should put a photo or not?
I don't. I don't. I'm not sure I would. I guess it depends on how. I think, I mean, some places do blind shortlisting where they take names and everything off, so the photo would be taken off anyway.
I was going to say, I'm not really photogenic, so I don't think.
I mean, it works on this one. It was almost like a cutout as well. No. It wasn't like a stick. It used to be like the old stick-on ones. No, this was done really well. But I probably wouldn't personally. But
each to their own.
Just what you're comfortable with.
Makes sense. What are the common mistakes, would you say, you see on applications or CVs? I guess you kind of covered that. So is there anything specific?
So typos.
Okay.
And wrong spelling. Using too much AI, because I think I'm rubbish at spotting AI because I don't use it very much. I'm not very good at spotting it, but lots of people, especially if you work in recruitment, you're going to see it all the time. So if you're going to use AI, use it to then tailor it yourself. Try and tailor it to the job that you're going for, and do a spell check. That's a real bugbear for me, is misspelling. If you can't do it yourself, do a spell check.
But is that because of the fact that you love reading and?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that might be but the reason it's a bugbear for me is because I'm a bit like, why have you not taken the time? To like get it right, and sometimes I've had some where people have emailed and used the wrong name, so they've called me like, I don't know, Ruby or whatever, and you're just like, all right, and so it's just take a little bit of care to just make sure you've got it
exactly
right.
Okay, all right. What are the soft skills you think are most important? Would you say, or becoming more important than ever at the moment?
I think the ability to hold a conversation is quite important. I went and did it was almost like the group of kids was coming around and spending like 7 minutes with different employers.
Yeah. And
we only had 7 minutes, so I would sit there and say, right, I'm from the railway. I can talk to you about the railway, and I can talk to you about HR, because I'm a HR professional. We've got 7 minutes. Do you want to just ask me questions, or do you want me to talk? And without fail, all of them said, can you just talk? And then when we get to the questions, very few of them were confident enough to ask questions. And that worried me quite a lot, because I was like, these kids are bright kids. They're at a sixth form where you need good grades to get there, and they're nervous to have a conversation. So it sounds really silly to say one of the soft skills is having a conversation, but I think there is that, the ability to engage with people, and it doesn't need to be a lot. And I know like neurodiversity can make it difficult, but actually lots of people who are autistic know how to mask and to like have a little pattern of these are the things that I'll say, and it doesn't need to be like full on eye contact, all of those sorts of things, but just being able to engage and to be like quite clear about what you need, I think is quite important, because there are lots of accommodations that employers will make if you're like quite clear about what that needs to look like and why. So yeah, I think the art of conversation is probably one of the biggest ones, and the willingness to ask for help and advice.
Okay. I guess the COVID and...
I think COVID made a massive difference. I think
it put a lot of people back in their shell.
It did.
Made a lot of people introverts as well.
Yeah, I think it did. And I think in the workplace it made a big difference as well, because lots of people's first experience of work was virtual.
Yeah.
So you were never seeing people. And we saw it on the trains, didn't we? When people started coming back on travelling on the trains again, people were quite rude to one another.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they were like... you were used to being spaced out, you weren't used to being around that many people, so everyone's tolerance levels were a little bit lower and all of that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
So I think COVID did have a huge effect.
I think it's had a knock-on effect to the younger generation as well. I don't know what it's like, but I know with my son, for example, like I feel like that generation doesn't really, like our generation, I thought that we went out more, we were happy to, but they just want to stay indoors. They're happy.
Like,
what you
don't go out and play.
No, I just want to stay indoors.
It's weird. And I'll message people rather than phone them.
It's so strange.
Although I don't really like phone calls, actually. I much prefer WhatsApp or a message. Like, why are they phoning me? They can WhatsApp me. Or they can leave me a voice note. Why do they actually want to talk to me on the phone?
I guess there's pros and cons.
Exactly.
All right. So, how do you identify potential in someone who doesn't have much experience?
So, I think this is where you need to be really good at asking questions.
All right.
I interviewed. I'm a non-exec director for Youth Futures Foundation.
Okay.
And it's a not-for-profit that looks at how to improve employment outcomes for disadvantaged young people. And we have young board members as part of the board. So literally on our board, we've got a member of the House of Lords, Lord Simon Woolley, who is fantastic. We've got a Dame Bernadette Kelly. We've got some real sort of experienced industry leaders. You've got me. And then we've got some young board members, and they are fantastic. Absolutely. Jess and George, who are the young board members at the moment, are amazing. Really, really brilliant. And I was involved in their interviews. And so we're interviewing them, and by young board members, they were under 25. So they could have been anything from like 18 to 25, I think. And a lot of them were still at uni or in their first jobs. So when we were interviewing them, we were asking them like competency-based questions around leadership.
Yeah.
And it's quite difficult, isn't it, to go, right, tell me when you've led. And I remember interviewing one young woman, and I said, tell me, give me an example of where you've shown leadership behaviours. And she said, I've never really done that before. And because she'd given an answer earlier on about something where she had shown leadership behaviours, I said, well, when you were talking earlier about this scenario, you were showing leadership behaviours. So tell me a little bit more about what that looks like and what that meant for you and why you did what you did. So I think it's just giving people that extra chance to go, hang on a minute, you might not have said it to me because in your head you're hearing leadership as something that's over here and big and different or whatever the question might be, but there'll always be something where you can go, do you know what? It is there. I just need to think about it in a different way. And my view is our job as interviewers is to get the best out of people and to help them find the right answers.
Yeah. Thanks for that. All right, so what qualities do you see in people who progress quickly in their careers?
So lots of people who progress quickly are very ambitious and are very clear about where they want to get to. But I think the people who progress quickly and do it well are the ones who want to learn and will speak up to try and connect with others so they know a bit more. So it's the people who, like in the railway, we've got young rail professionals, there's women in rail, there's lots of things like that. The people who put themselves out to do things like that create a network which helps them to see what opportunities there might be. It sort of gets them across people's radar and all of that sort of stuff. And that's how they end up moving quite quickly, I think. So you sometimes have to do things that are extracurricular. You don't have to, because I know it's not always easy to do it. But the people who progress the quickest either are the ones who are really ambitious and so really push and drive for it, or the ones who kind of go out their way to learn and make connections with other people in the areas in which they work.
Well, if you had to pick between one or the other...
Well, I'd prefer the people who... and there's nothing wrong with ambition. I think we get a little bit funny in England about people who are ambitious because it's a bit like, really? Yeah, bit, big few boots, all that sort of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with being ambitious because, it's good to be proud of yourself and confident in your abilities. But I think the people who do that because they want to learn rather than because they want the status and do it by networking with people is probably my preference.
Can you tell, see the level you're at, can you tell the people who just do it for the status?
Yeah, sometimes. And you can see it, there's some organisations are more hierarchical than others as well. Yeah. And some people are driven more by hierarchy than... I've never been driven by hierarchy. I've never been I want to be in this job because I want to be the boss. Yeah. I've always thought I want to be in a position where I can have influence and make a change, and whatever that role happens to look like, brilliant. But yeah, you can sort of tell a little bit. But
you know what, I actually agree with you with what you're saying, because I know some people just say it, but I think you seem very genuine. Like I said, the way you come across when I first met you, very genuine.
Yeah.
You don't come across like someone who sits...
Give me more power.
Have you seen Borat, by the way?
Borat, yeah.
Have you seen that video? He goes, "King of the Castle."
It's like, some people like that. I'm happy not being Queen of the Castle. But if being Queen of the Castle means I can do more good, then I'll be Queen of the Castle. But if I can do it without being Queen of the Castle, that's fine.
Alright, how does someone make themselves visible in a large organisation without feeling... Actually, I've sort of just covered that in a way.
Yeah, I think it's about finding the opportunities to connect with people. So the day job, do your day job really well. That obviously will make you visible. But there's lots of people who do their day jobs really well. So it's finding the opportunities to do other things. I'm a huge fan of network groups and things like YRP and everything, because you can learn a lot more. I love learning, and I think you can never stop learning.
For those of you that don't know what YRP is, just break.
Oh, sorry. Young Rail Professionals.
Yeah, thank you.
Which you can join Young Rail Professionals if you're under 35. Or if you've got less than 10 years service in the rail industry. So I hesitated on the age bit because I know I'm still technically a young rail professional, but not by virtue of age.
Okay.
So yeah,
you still look young.
Yeah, but I'm definitely over the average age in the rail industry now. But so group like they'll put on. You can be part of their committees. They're always after people to be part of their committees, as are network groups and stuff like that within organisations like race equality networks and stuff. But they're really good ways of meeting people, seeing different people. I've met more people across the rail industry through. I was part of Women in Rail a couple of years ago, and I still hugely support everything they do. And I've been involved in Rail Wellbeing Live, which lots of people will have seen. Yeah. And I've met so many people through Rail Wellbeing Live that I wouldn't have done in my day job, which helps me in my day job because I've got people now that I can phone up and go, you do this for me, or what did you do in this scenario? And the other thing is, you end up it's always a mutual benefit, isn't it? So you'll connect with someone. Sometimes they'll be able to do something that helps you. Sometimes you'll be able to do something that helps them.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, this one's really interesting for me. All right. So, do you prefer hiring people with degrees or apprenticeships, or does it depend on the role?
So I think that's a really interesting one. In COVID, in Great Western, we paused the graduate scheme. Okay. And the reason we paused the graduate scheme was partly because of COVID and partly because we wanted to prioritise continuing to do apprenticeships because in the rail industry, you don't need to join with a degree. Like you do except for in if you're a chartered engineer, you don't have to, lots of our roles don't need to be degree level roles to come in. And actually what we're really good at doing in the rail industry is developing people once they're with us. So people can do their degrees in the Chartered Institute of Railway Operations whilst they're here. There's loads and loads and loads of apprenticeships at all different levels, from level 2 to level 7, that you can do while you're in work. So I'm a huge fan of apprenticeships, but as someone who's been on a graduate scheme, I can also see the real value in doing a graduate scheme as well. So I think they both have their place. Okay. It's just about where you go. The difference is when I went to uni, there were no fees. So a lot more people from a lot more backgrounds went to university.
Yeah, makes sense.
Whereas now, with fees and stuff like that, it costs so much money. Is it worth doing it? Can you get a job that is at the degree level that's worth it? Exactly. So I think if you only go down one route, you're closing off who you're going to be able to attract. So I think both are quite important, but I think providing people support to be able to do degrees through work is also really important.
Makes sense. I guess you sort of covered this, but how valuable would you say apprenticeships are in today's job market, or are they underrated? Because I know for me growing up, I don't think apprenticeships were talked about much.
Yeah.
So what do you feel?
I think there's loads of evidence.
In this day and age.
Yeah, there's loads of evidence now that shows that apprenticeships are a really good way into work, as long as they're good quality apprenticeships. Okay. That's the important bit.
How does one spot good quality?
So the bigger the company, the more likely it is that the apprenticeship will be high quality. Now, it does not mean that apprenticeships with small companies are going to be bad. Okay. It just means they've got less resource to put into it to be able to sort of do the wraparound support. But there's lots of evidence that show that apprenticeships are a really good way for young people into work. There's nearly 1 million people that are aged 16 to 24, 25, not in education, employment and training at the moment, which is dreadful. Wow. And the unemployment rate for that age group is 15%, I think, whereas it's 5% for the general population. So we've got a real crisis where young people are not getting into jobs as much as they should be.
Exactly, yeah.
And the railway is a brilliant place that we should be employing more young people because we can. But apprenticeships are a really good way into work because you've got that skills and training element to it as well. And it's a really good alternative to university if you can't afford it, or if academic route is not the way that you want to go down. So I think they've got a really good place in the workplace, but what we need to do is make it easier for more people to do them well.
If someone chooses the apprenticeship route, what's the best way to stand out and grow quickly, would you say? knowing what you know now?
Yeah, I think it's the good thing with an apprenticeship is that GTR do apprenticeships, as do Great Western and Network Rail. So there's loads and loads in the rail industry, and you're normally brought in on an apprenticeship contract, but most people then get a full-time job at the end of it. I know, obviously, I've not been at GTR very long, but in Great Western, it was very unusual that anyone on the apprenticeship scheme wasn't employed at the end of it.
Yeah.
So I think the answer is come in, listen to the advice that you're getting from your mentors, from your tutors, use it as an opportunity to test the bits of the jobs in the organisation you like and the things that you want to do, get the qualifications, and make some of those networks and connections, because it will set you up well. And the reality is, I think we put loads of pressure on ourselves to say, oh, this is what my career is going to do. I'm going to go here, then I'm going to go here, then I'm going to go here. I haven't plotted my path and ended up like, oh, I thought I'd be here, so I am here. So it's a really good way of sort of sampling things and learning. Even the things that you don't like very much, you'll learn from, because you'll learn what you don't like about them. So it's a good way of, trying things out and going, yeah, that works for me, that doesn't work for me.
Makes sense. All right. What practical steps can someone take in the next 6 to 12 months if they're serious about progression in their career?
So if you really want to progress in your career, have a think about where you want to get to next, but also what the job after that you want to do is, so that you make sure your next step sort of takes you in that direction. I always think it's really important to think about what's going on in your home life as well as your work life. So I've done an exercise before where you draw a line and you can like put a timeline on it with whatever time period you like, and you can put what you want to do work-wise on the top, but then also map on what you want to do at home or what's going on in your home life along the bottom, because you need to balance it out how does that hang together. Make sure your CV's up to date and start thinking about, when you're clear where you want to get to next, start thinking about who can help you get there. So who is it that you want to try and reach out and have conversations with, who can help you with your thinking and all of that sort of stuff.
All right. You want a promotion but nothing's moving. What's your strategy?
So similar advice, really.
Yeah, sorry. No,
it's fine. So think about why you want the promotion. What is it that you want the promotion for? Get the feedback as to, like, if you've gone for things, what is it that you don't have? Is it a case that you really don't have something and you need to go away and close that gap and come back with something different? Or is it that people don't see it and you've already got it, so you either need to explain it in a different way or go somewhere else? Because there are times where you're going to hit a block in the place that you're at because
for whatever reason,
reasons beyond you. And think about who is it that can help you move around that blocker.
No, it makes sense. I think some people, it starts to take things personally, but I think some things are just out of your control. So
yeah, exactly. There's a thing like about untrue limiting assumptions, where you can think something, and the challenge is, if you knew that wasn't true, what would you do differently? So that's quite a good way of looking at things, but it's also important to recognise where the limit and assumptions are true. So sometimes it's like, I think it's because of this, like I'm never going to get there because of this. Well, sometimes that's true. So then it's a case of going, do you know what? Maybe I need to go and try somewhere else instead, or do something different instead.
How can someone become like you? Let's say, no, you'd be surprised. Like, a lot of people look at like leadership and be like, oh, like, let's say someone just come out of uni or hasn't got a job, or maybe they're in work, they just want to become the next Ruth Busby. And they're sitting down with you right now. And
they're like, how do I come to you? Well, firstly, I'd say be you, not me.
Okay.
Carve your own path. I've always done things that I found interesting.
All right.
So I continue to do things that I find interesting. And sometimes people will say, no, don't go down that path because you should be going over this way. And it's useful to listen to people, but it's a point of data, it's a point of reference. Keep doing things that energise you, that you find interesting. Be around people that give you energy and that you can give energy to, and see where life takes you.
I might have to not happy and be like, I'll be the next, literally, Ruth Busby.
Well, yeah, unless you're my children who have a little bit of genetic in there, it's a bit difficult, isn't it? Sometimes people say my daughter is my mini-me.
Is she?
We do look quite alike.
Oh, bless. All right. You've applied for lots of jobs and you never get any interviews.
Yeah.
What's going on? I guess that's very common in this day and age.
Yeah. It's really hard. So the first thing is, it won't always be because of you.
Okay.
Sometimes it is just the volume of applications. And there are some places that use AI to filter job applications and stuff like that as well. So you never know how many other people are going for a job, and it will feel like it's you when you've been applying for lots and lots and lots. I think it's keep focused, keep trying, look at other avenues. So if you're really fixed on, I want to be doing this, but it's not working for you, have a look at, well, are there things that are similar to it that I can try that might get me there in the longer run? And just keep trying. But it's really hard, isn't it?
Yeah,
it must be really rubbish.
All right. This is just some quick fire fun questions.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So you've just lost your job.
Yeah.
Just imagine in the imaginary world.
Yeah.
And you need a job quick.
Yeah.
What do you do in the next 48 hours?
So get your CV up to date.
All right.
Get your LinkedIn up to date.
All right. How important is LinkedIn? Very, yeah?
It depends what job you're going for. There's lots of... I think it's a good way to get your profile out there and to get awareness about you. And there are loads of jobs on LinkedIn.
Right.
And plus LinkedIn jobs do loads of AI stuff now as well. So it will feed you jobs that are out there. Might be worth signing up with either a headhunter or a recruitment agency if you need something really urgently.
Yeah.
But they're probably your first. And then, speak to friends. Does anyone know anything? Put a word in for me.
Yeah. I bet you must get a lot of friends, especially working in HR, sending you a message with, what's going on? Sort me out.
I don't get... The ones I've had more of recently, and it's been via sort of friends and family, has been people are going for interviews and can I give them a bit of coaching on what they need to think about for the interview. Mainly it's just about giving people the space to talk and get their head straight about what they're going to say and everything. So I don't get it too much.
Okay. But nice friends and family.
Yeah.
Your job is affecting your mental health. What's the next step we should take?
So there is lots of research at the moment that says not being in work when your mental health is poor is almost worse than being in work. But if you are having mental health problems, please make sure you engage with a doctor and all of that sort of stuff. But the reason for that thinking is that it's much harder. Basically, when you're not somewhere, you think about all the problems more, don't you? And you think about the stories that are being told, and they're thinking this about me and they're thinking that about me, which is what I did when I was on maternity leave quite a lot. The longer you're away, the harder it is to go back. So I think the most important thing is talk to someone. If you can talk to your line manager, talk to your line manager. If you can talk to a colleague, talk to a friend, mental health first aider, someone in HR, but talk to someone about how you're feeling. Engage with your GP, or there's loads of really good, like the Samaritan's Mind, brilliant. There's a brilliant app called Hub of Hope, and you can go in that, and that will give you local mental health services and that sort of stuff. If you need some of that, if you work in the railway, most railway companies have got an employee assistance program that have got a phone line that you can phone up and get some sort of counselling over the phone. But talk to someone, and they should then be able to help you break down exactly what the challenge is and what needs to look different to enable you to feel well at work. That's the important thing, I think.
Yeah. All right. This one's... I think a lot of people can relate. A lot of people can relate to this, but especially because of the job market at the moment.
Yeah.
But you're unemployed and need a job fast.
Yeah.
As you know, the employment rate at the moment. Yeah. What would you do? It's kind of similar in a way, actually.
Yeah, it's similar, isn't it? It's and also I know people who, and this is really difficult because lots of people can't do this, but I know people who took on voluntary work to get them the experience they needed to be able to get the permanent job, or they took a job at a much lower level than they were capable of, to keep them going. There's someone I met when I joined my new job who'd been really senior in the company that he was in overseas before coming to the UK, and he's taken an entry-level job in the railway because he can see that it gives him what he needs to start moving. And this guy is way more capable than the job that he's doing. But he's come in at that level so he can build himself up. And that's not an option to everyone, is it? Because you need money and you've got family to feed and all of that sort of stuff. So it very much depends on your circumstance. But yeah, back to the, get your CV up to date, get yourself on LinkedIn with recruitment agencies, and don't be too picky.
Oh, okay.
That's the other thing. It's easy to go, but I don't want to do that. And it's like, well, but do you need the money more than you don't want to do that?
Exactly.
Like, what's the lesser evil? And you don't have to stay somewhere for ages, but think about that. And if you don't work in the railway, look at the railway, because it's a brilliant place to work.
All right. So what would this? I think this one's an interesting one, and I think a lot of people on the railway, because obviously you got options of where you could live and whatnot. But if you had to choose between career opportunity or lifestyle comfort, and you couldn't do both, what would you choose?
Yeah, well, I think...
would you rather be in a flat in London or...
Your overall habit... I was having this conversation with my sister yesterday, actually. So she's living in Manchester at the moment.
Okay.
And she asked me if I ever wanted to live in London, because I was giving her advice on things to go and see when she was down in London and all that sort of stuff. She was like, "Oh, you sound like you really like London." I said, "Yeah, I love London. It's like the best city in the world." She said, "Well, have you ever wanted to live there?" I was like, "No," because I love being in the city, but it's really expensive to live in the city, so that lifestyle bit kicks in. And actually, you can travel as long when you're living in London to get to work as you can if you commute in from somewhere else. So I think for me, in the long run, your wider life is more important than your work, but you can create it so that you get the balance between both, and that your work really enhances your lifestyle and well-being. So I'm cheating.
Let's say you didn't have...
I'm cheating.
Let's say you didn't have the railway, you wasn't in the railway, and you didn't have the obviously the travel benefits. Or
when I first joined, when I was working in the Home Office, I was living in Reading.
Oh, okay.
Because it was still cheaper to live in Reading and travel in, paying the full price season ticket, than it was to live in London. Because I was living in Fulham and going into Westminster, well, that would take up to an hour, but it was only an hour and 20 minutes door to door from Reading. So, yeah, you could, even with good season tickets, you can do it.
All right, fair enough. All right, so we have got a bit of time.
Yeah.
These are a bit of the diversity ones.
Yeah.
How can organisations create culture where people feel safe to speak up?
So I think... it's not about the policies, it's about the people and how you live those policies. Actually, I was doing a session on this yesterday, a Network Rail and train operators event. The most important thing is to be curious about other people's experiences and to really listen, because we're never going to understand everything that goes on because we only see it through our perspective, whether that be the job role that we're in, or you're never going to know what it's like to be a woman walking through a station late at night, just as I'm not going to ever know what it's like to be a black man walking down a street. So the important thing is taking the time to listen, understand one another's experiences and be curious about it rather than judgmental. So the policies are important because they kind of set the standards, but the way in which we interact with one another is the thing that makes the real difference.
Interesting. What responsibility does leadership have in creating visible role models?
So I think it's really important. There's this whole thing about if you can't see it, you can't be it. I think you can, because someone's got to do it first, but it's much harder to believe it's possible, isn't it? So the important thing for me is that if it's important to have a diverse leadership because you want diversity of thought, and you want, like I said, where you don't know what it's like to be a woman on your own in the dark at the station. I don't know what it's like to be you. As leaders, what's really important for us to know is what are the things that we're not thinking about in the room, because it's not our experience. So having that visible diversity is really important. And if it's not there, how do we go out and make sure we get those voices, the messages in the room, and also then provide platform for people to tell their own stories. So I wouldn't want to speak on your behalf about your experiences. What I would want to do as a leader is to say, I think there's some things that happen. Derek, here's your opportunity to share your story. And then that gives you a little bit of a platform for you, as well as then helping people to get a bit of visibility. Because you're leading in that scenario. Leadership's not just your position, it's the impact that you have on other people.
How do you ensure the hiring process is fair and inclusive rather than just appearing diverse on paper?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting one. This is where the data bit comes in as well. Right. So we've got all of our policies. We do everything in the same way. So we make sure we're doing things like everyone gets treated in the same way. Everyone has the same questions for their interview. Everyone goes through the same assessment process. But it's really important to go, well, you might put people through the same things, but that doesn't necessarily provide equity. It might provide equality, but it doesn't necessarily provide equity. So the data is really important then to say, are we seeing any differences? So are women less likely to get through something? Are younger people less likely to get through something? Are people of colour less likely to get through something? And to really have a look and then go, why? Why is that happening? And what can we do? The brilliant thing about Youth Futures Foundation, they've got an employers toolkit. And they're a What Works centre, so they've got a really high level of high standard of evidence that they test. They provide loads of advice and guidance on these are things that work to eliminate unfairness, basically. So it's really looking at it and going, it might feel fair, but actually, is it fair when we're using it? And if not, what can we do and why?
But I guess that's it. Is there any special books I know you're really into reading. Is there any special books you'd recommend for someone to read to better their career or?
No, well, so I've just read the Let Them theory.
Okay.
Which is a big popular thing at the moment. I think in terms of things for work, podcasts are probably better than books, if I'm honest, because books go basically you get the idea from the beginning of the book and it just goes into a bit more detail. There's a brilliant Amy Cuddy does a brilliant TED talk on body language, which is really, really good. There's a lady called Caroline Goyder who does one on gravitas, and that's really good because it's about confidence and the impact that you have. Sheryl Sandberg years ago did a brilliant book called Lean In, but that's it's probably a little bit dated now. It's about women leaning into their careers, and it's a US one. I'll try and have a think about.
No worries. If you think of anything, let me know, and I'll stitch it into the video. But how did you get into reading? What? This is obviously just want to get to know a bit more about you. What was it like?
I've always liked reading. I think I was quick at learning to read.
But you're not like the average reader, though.
I read quickly, but reading is a skill, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
The more you do it, the quicker you get it, and it is really good because so for me, because I'm so curious, reading is for me a bit of my rest time is reading, but it's also a way for me to learn about things, and often it's through fiction. So I'm reading.
So it's more fiction that you read.
I read fiction and non. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I've got 2 books on the go at the moment. One's not great and I can't even remember the title, but the other one's Cleopatra. So it's fiction, but about the life of Cleopatra, which is really interesting because I obviously never lived in ancient Egypt. So I don't know. And lots of it's fictionalised, but it's just interesting. You learn things. You learn things from different people's perspectives that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise, which is why fiction can teach you loads about the world as well as non-fiction can. I just. Do
you feel like reading has helped you, in a way, in your career?
Yeah, definitely, because it just gives you so many different perspectives. So I think the most important thing, when you talk about inclusion and all that sort of stuff, is being able to see the world through someone else's eyes, and that's what you're doing all the time when you're reading. You're always seeing it through someone else's perspective. So it's kind of forcing you to think about how other people might think. So I think it's really, really important. And, and obviously it's good fun.
I aspire to be like you one day. Like, not the fact.
But I do read really quickly.
Yeah,
so
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You're not like the average reader. Like,
no,
you read
I do.
quickly.
I do read really quickly.
What's the most amount of books like you've covered like in a month?
Well, it's weird that I know this, but it's because of my book account. I've read 24 books since the start of the year.
Jesus.
Which I know that is more than I used to sort of have a run rate of about 6 a month. So that is high. Some of it's because I'm training for a half marathon and I've been listening to audiobooks when I've been running. So
that's a secret. Though.
Some of it is that. But this year as well, I've been doubling up a little bit between the audiobook and the physical book. Because you can get the books free, well, not free, but as part of your Spotify account, you can get listening hours with audiobooks. There's been some where I don't want to carry the hardback in with me in and out of London, so I'll like read a bit and then I'll listen to it a bit. So you end up getting through it a bit quicker.
Oh, I didn't think of that. That's a good idea.
Through doing things like that, it's quite nice sometimes because sometimes you listen to it and the narrator's voice is different to the voice that you had in your head. So it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh, like. Yeah. That's made me think about it differently. So that is a lot more books than I would normally. But also, it's been really wet and miserable. So I haven't really wanted to go out. Yeah. So that's probably why I've read more books as well. Because I've not wanted to go out because it's been wet and miserable.
What's the most you've done in a year? Like most books you've read over the course of a year?
I
remember you posted online. It was a number. I can't remember.
During COVID, I think it was about 120.
Wow.
But that was during COVID. Yeah. So that was a bit unusual.
Yeah. I think that's impressive.
Yeah.
So what do you do like in terms of storing all your books? I'm curious.
Yeah. So if so some of them are signed because I quite like going to book. Like this is my special interest.
My sister does that as well, actually. Yeah.
So I quite like. So if a book's signed, obviously I'll keep it. Yeah. If I love the book that I've got a copy of, I'll give it away. So like there's little mini libraries at stations, aren't there, and you can donate them to Oxfam Bookshop and stuff like that, or I'll give it to a friend or whatever. Some of them are on my Kindle. I use the library quite a lot. Yeah. And the audiobooks just kind of go. So, and I've got quite a lot of bookshelves at home. There's probably enough to open a library in our house between my books and the kids' books. Do you store
some of these bookshelves up in the attic, or do you have a room just to store them all?
No, there are some books in the attic, but they're my husband's.
Okay. Does he read as well?
Yeah, a lot slower than me, but he does read as well.
Oh, okay.
He is a lot slower than me. And he reads different books. He mainly reads books about World War II.
Oh, okay.
Or the Napoleonic Wars. Okay. Like, his books are very different to mine. Right. We've got 2 bookshelves in the living room, and then I've got there's that like IKEA, the like modular thing. I've got one of those in my study. Oh. And then I've got a little basket. And then the kids have got some modular bookshelves and books everywhere. But I tend to like once I've read it, it goes. Yeah. Unless I thought it was great or it's been signed, and then it stays.
Nah, that's very unique. I've got to say.
But I've had a lot of library books recently, so actually that sped me up because the library books had to go back. So there's the one I'm reading at the moment, which is not great. Yeah. I'm not going to get through it before I need to go back to the library, and it's for a book club discussion on Sunday. So I have put it on Spotify to listen to a bit of it today.
So what? Even if the book's not good, is it just like? Is it like when you play a game where it has to be finished regardless? Yeah. Like when you open it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So like in the book world, not finishing a book is DNF or do not finish or did not finish. I find it really hard to do that because it's like, when you're in the supermarket and you get in a queue and you're in the wrong queue, but you're in that queue and you spent that time queuing, so you don't want to move.
You don't want to move.
Because I've committed.
Okay.
It's a little bit like that.
Yeah.
I know people who can just go, no, I don't like this, I'm putting it down. I find it really hard.
Yeah, I think
I find it really, really hard because I'm like, I've started now. So I've committed to this.
Committed to it, yeah. No, but I think that's a good attitude because it kind of follows you everywhere you go, like in your life. I think if you can commit to a book, you're gonna commit to. Yeah. So I feel like I'll start a book. I'll put my bookmark in and I forget to go.
It's finding the time of day where you enjoy reading as well. Like if you don't start till you go into bed and then you start falling asleep reading, it's just like don't. Okay.
I love the fact that you even categorise what reads at which time of the day.
Yeah. Like if I was reading a thriller just before bed, I'm not going to sleep very well. But I don't read thrillers all that often, so it's like, no, It's just, and I do read more than one book at a time.
Jesus Christ. That's one thing I can't do.
But if they're
I feel like I need to commit to one.
If they're different books, it's fine. I've got one that's in the downstairs toilet. Yeah. So there's always a book in the downstairs toilet. So like that's a couple of pages at a time, just like.
But how do you? The problem I have as well is, I feel like if I don't, I'll forget like what I'm reading if I don't. Like, let's say you read this book yesterday, you're reading another book. Yeah. When you start reading that book again, would you go back like to the previous page just to recall what you read? No.
I normally just go with it. So this morning, I was finishing the Let Them audiobook. Then on the train, I did a little bit of work, and then on the tube. I was reading a little bit of because the Let Them I was listening to as I walked to the station, did the work on the train. On the tube I was got out my Kindle and started reading a bit of Cleopatra, and I read the first paragraph and I was like, I don't know what's happening, but by the end of that page I was like, oh yeah, I've remembered now. We got up to that bit. It's actually I had to stop it at a really good bit when I got off the tube this morning. So there's a little bit of me that's like, is she? Well, I know she's still going to be in power because she doesn't die at the point in which it happens. But they're about to try and unseat her, so it's an exciting bit in the book.
Thank you so much for today.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah.